Another brilliant day here in Canterbury, sun shining. Bit of a cold overnight, but blue skies, still airs, lovely autumn tones out the window. You're a bit damp up there, Frank?
Yeah, it's been raining here all night. Just what we need. All the dairy farmers will be hoping that it rained a bit because it's been a bit dry actually underfoot. I was digging in the garden yesterday and went down about 6 inches and it was as dry as a bone.
Yeah, well, I have to say that's the same here. The old two things are happening. The farmers are feeding out already because of the lack of water over the autumn flush.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, of course, they're watering to keep the grass green for the stock. So not looking good. We're a bit dry. My beasts are getting a bit peckish, but there you go. All right, so the regardless of the weather, hopefully wherever you are, things are good for you. Let's just have a look at what we've got to say. So the first one I'll kick off is the get together with Bernadine McKenzie is happening on the 31st of May at the Air Force Museum in Wigram. So thank you to Tom Turnbull, Ross Milne, Joe Cox and the others who have organised these. And they had their last case manager get together back on the 10th of May. So that's, I think, last Friday. And the next one, I think, is somewhere else in the country. So I think Bernadine's coming down. She's going to have a bit of a spiel. There won't be question and answer time because it's in a very public place. And that's about that. So you would have seen on the page, bit of prattle from me. So there was a post by Ross Hamona about the what is a veteran, what does that look like, what should we be thinking about veterans? Is the system slanted against some and not against others? Were they a bit disfavoured, if you like? Is the system equitable? Are we all getting a fair shake of the stick? I don't know your views. You can stick them down there. I think Ross is looking for some answers to the questions. And I think for me, it's one of those topics that even the what's his name, Chris Pink, he's been hot on the let's get this sorted out, the definition of a veteran. And of course you throw that on the road and you have as many views as there are people. So how do you view that, Frank?
Yeah, it's such a minefield, isn't it? I think the biggest mistake they ever made with it, and I think he pointed out, was the division. Having these two divisions of Scheme 1 and Scheme 2.
Yep.
And clunk, that's the date. And oh, hello, ACC came in that day. What a good idea. You that were after 74, ACC, you below, and we'll look after you. I think he had some good things in there, but it's such a minefield. There's a hell of a lot, as you were saying before. These days, you can have a drone operator sitting in Harkia bombing the Ukraine. Is he operational or is he not operational? Or is that just regular service? I don't think they've even thought about that. Mm.
Yeah. So I think part of the question needs to be framed around not what a veteran is currently, because I think it's a bit backward looking, and not to put too fine a point on it, but the Scheme 1 people are passing away, and there's not going to be a lot of them left in a not so many years. So that'll fall by the wayside, and everyone will be Scheme 2, and then they will possibly rewrite the Act and get rid of the nomenclature of Scheme 2, Scheme 1, and we'll end up with something a bit different. But we need to be thinking about actually what is a veteran in the future, not what we've got now and what's happened in the past. Yes, it can inform the debate. The past can inform the debate. This is what happened. This is how it's been looked at. And I think the minister's got himself a job that's slightly bigger than what he might have anticipated. I mean, we're aware that the Veterans Advisory Board gave advice to Minister Marks about what's a veteran. Everybody who signed on should be a veteran, and they estimated the cost at $144 million extra per year. But in a lot of cases, that money is already being utilised, as pointed out by Ross in his article, through ACC, WINS, the Health New Zealand, and those other government agencies. So the money's already being spent. It's really just extracting it from those other government agencies and moving it across to Veterans Affairs to give them a bit more grunt, and to move all veterans into that one body. So it's a one-stop shop, and we do away with this 2 tiers, because we've all served. Where we served may have led to the conditions that we now face, and that's the delineating mark. It's what happened when we served wherever it was, as opposed to this, you've got qualifying operational service or qualifying routine service. It's just, when you served in this place, you were deployed, and this is the response to that, and you were somewhere else, and these are the conditions you faced. And so there's some greater equity in the system. It has been said, and I had a discussion with the barrister on Monday night about this very topic and the equity of the situation. And to some degree, his argument was, well, you're not put in harm's way when you're in New Zealand. And I think that's a reasonable statement. We're not in any more harm than your average, perhaps tradie or person driving down the road in their car when we're on exercise and so on.
They can fly drones a long way.
Exactly. That's, well, interesting you should say that. I noticed that North Korea has sent a little challenge to us because we're surveilling them with our new P-8 Orions for breaches of the sanctions. So they might get a bit grumpy and send a hyper missile here, and then we'll all be at war.
Exactly.
And
it's a bit like the veterans' pension there as well. Yeah, they're afraid of giving all the veterans pension. Well, the veterans' pension is exactly the same as superannuation. It's only got a few minor things which they can't touch it. That's the only difference. It's not going to cost them a cent.
Yep. So it's pretty significant debate around that. What is a veteran? I don't know. And I think it was interesting to see some of the comments where you've got people who weren't deployed operationally saying, well, no, I don't think it should be everybody who signed on the dotted line. Maybe you should have to do your 3 years, or you have to do this, or you have to do that before you can be called a veteran. So even without this separation between operational service and routine service, even within the routine service, there are some lines that are being drawn as to how it should be applied. So interesting conversations. And just in that vein, what did I do? Yes, so in April, there was an article in the Spin-Off. I think I put it up on the page talking about the 2-tiered system and the case of a person who served in Timor, but had also served in Christchurch post the earthquakes, who had PTSD as a result of that. And yes, his injuries for Timor were covered, but the PTSD he suffers from was as a result of his service when he was not deployed operationally in Christchurch for a civil emergency. And so I sent that to Chris Penks and asked him for his opinion. And, you know, these things take a bit of time. And I got a response from him just yesterday, thanking me for the email. And
he saw your letter and says, oh, at least I can put Frank Lewis's below his. He still hasn't answered mine.
So he's admits that he's looking into this issue of what is a veteran, and there's been, like missed opportunities for greater clarity, and how it affects people differently. So even here, that comment going back to the guy who served in the earthquakes. So there is some being put in harm's way. So here's a person who's been put in harm's way with the earthquake, and it's not physical harm as far as people shooting at him or whatever, but it's a psychological harm by having to deal with the sites that they saw post those earthquakes in Christchurch. And I understand some of them are pretty horrific. And also there was a group operating at Burnham Camp, so they ran a morgue out at Burnham, and they helicoptered bodies from in Christchurch to the morgue, and so they were exposed to some pretty horrendous sights as well. So it's not a cut and dried argument by any stretch of the imagination. You can still be deployed in harm's way here in New Zealand, for argument's sake, with Cyclone Gabrielle. People could be exposed to quite toxic environments up there. And is that covered by ACC? Well, I don't know. And that raises another good point with ACC. And I don't know whether you'd be aware, Frank. Do you know that if you go overseas, you're covered by ACC for 6 months?
No, I didn't know about that. I know I have to get travel and medical insurance.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So you can be covered for up to 6 months. And the interesting thing is, I note that some of those later deployments of New Zealand troops they were about 6 months.
Oh.
That may be just entirely coincidental, but I'm aware of that.
A 6-month deployment, that'd be great, because our first deployment was about 16 months. 16 months. And it seemed to fly.
Yeah. So let me just go back to here he is, Minister Penk, in his letter. So certainly he identifies the fact that 1 April 74 was the coming in of ACC, and there is cover for that from that point onwards. But I also understand that NZ Defence provides insurance cover when people are deployed. Now, I don't know how that works, but someone can write in, let us know how that works, or if it works, or if I've got the wrong information. But anyway, so so it's a question that is on the minister's desk, shall we say. And when I went to get an update on his latest postings or news and information of the list of newsletters that had been sent out and things that he'd done, the majority were about the building industry and only one about veterans.
Right.
So maybe it's got a low priority, or veterans aren't perceived to be a big issue that needs to be resolved.
Wow. I've just learned how to get 4 pages on my screen at once. Sorry about that.
well done, Frank. And the other one, there was 2 that have come out just recently as well in the news. So the one I put out the other day. So the cost of ammunition has gone up, 600% rise, and we'll be back to those days, as I pointed out, of wandering around the plains of Tekapo and the backcountry of Waihuru, calling out bullets and artillery shells or mortar rounds for our training and exercising. And the second one was the Judith Collins has lashed out $571 million for pay for the troops, which might be a good thing, and also expenditure on some pieces of kit for the NZ Defence, I think, for the Army, I think it was, and the Navy. And I think also there's a review going on of the Navy vessels. Frank, is that right?
Yeah.
I seem to remember
that.
that.
I believe so. The two frigates are sort of nearing the end of their operational life. They usually keep them for about 30 years, and that's it.
Right.
But usually they have replacements already underway when they're in their 29th year. But
And
there's nothing at the moment.
The two we have are, is it the Anzac class frigates?
Anzac class, yeah, German design, yeah.
Right, okay. And so they're getting to the end of their usable life. And maybe that's a good thing because we don't have enough sailors to man them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, to say they only need about 100 to man them.
Yeah.
Behind me, we had 264 on it.
Oh, yes. And that someone I saw made the comment that that's got the same number as is it the Tamana that's just gone out?
Tikaha, yep.
Tikaha.
They took the Blackpool pennant.
Ah, okay.
Pennant number, yeah, F77. I don't know if it's got the same call sign or not. They seem to move them around.
So
New Zealand's allocated a block of pennant numbers.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's 147 is where the South Africans end. Then we go 148 up to about 150, and then we go from 421 to 460 something.
Oh, right.
So that's why we've got 421, I think it is, for the Canterbury.
So things related more to the association and what's happening. So the proposal, which I think Thursday we're having a meeting, the executive will be to have the AGM at Birkenhead RSA. So that's the proposal. So if you think that's a good idea, make a comment underneath. Or if you think there's some other place we should have it, let us know. It's also been proposed that perhaps that should be a reunion, which I think we've tried to do with varying degrees of success. A get together on the Friday night, the meeting on the Saturday, and let people head off on Sunday. So if you're interested in that, if you're interested in having not just the AGM but also a gathering, do that. Let us know. Speaking of reunions, I know that there has been talk about people going back to Singapore, Rarotonga, and maybe I think Taupo has been mentioned. So the thing is that the committee is quite small. We all have commitments all around the place. So putting together a reunion is a bit difficult for us. But if you're keen to do that and want to make something happen, let us know. Work in conjunction with us. Put your hand up, and we'll support you and encourage you where we can. And of course, the last thing on the list is we now have a new CDF. Air Vice Marshal Tony Davies is taking over from Kevin Short, and we've also got a new acting chief of Navy, Commodore Andrew Brown, just been appointed in the week. So there you go. Any comments for the Navy? Is that a big deal? The swapping over at the Chief of Navy level?
Yeah, it's I think it's sort of a standard thing. They slowly work their way up, eventually get to the Chief of Navy. The only thing that surprises me a bit is the Chief of Defence Force. They sort of have kept that virtually in the Air Force hands in the last few years.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I think Kevin
used to move around, but
Kevin Short was there for 6 years, I think, because of the COVID.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that was extended. Oh, hang on, we've got a little message that says we've got 10 minutes left. Okay, we'll be conscious of that. So we'll move into the last post, Frank.
Okay, then. Yeah, well, I've got 3 today. NZ 18119, McDonald Peter Bruce, a stoker, Royal New Zealand Navy. He joined 1964, CS 68. Crossed the bar on the 9th of May 2024. More details will be known once published. And then we have NZD 2758. Johnson Roland Thomas, an able seaman, World War II, Leander, crossed the bar on May the 2nd, 2024 in his 99th year. There will be a funeral for him. A funeral for him has already been held. And then we have NZ 16335. Ferguson Kevin Edward, known as Kev throughout the Navy, a mechanical engineer, first class. Was on Taranaki in 1964 and joined 1 bar 58. Crossed the bar 13th of May 2024, aged 82. His funeral will be at All Saints Chapel, Meadowbank in Auckland at 2 p.m. on the 16th of May. I'd like to pass on our condolences to all their families and friends.
Thanks.
So fair winds and calm seas to you all.
So a few from the, I think we've got about 6. 720833, Ellingham Ross, NZ Regiment and RNZIR, passed away the 6th of May in Rotorua. Ross served in the Assault Pioneer Platoon and Headquarters Company, Support Company, 1 NZ Regiment and 1 RNZIR, 1963-65. And this is an Air Force one. Everson, Milton James, I think he was a warrant officer, and GSI, General Service Instructor, ATC Instructor, 1950s to the 1980s. Passed away on the 5th of May 2024, courtesy of the New Zealand Herald. Flight Sergeant Howes, Bravo 81674. First name's Bryce Gilbert. He was an AF fit, whatever that is, RNZAF, 15th of January 64 until the 30th of April 1985. And he passed away on the 20th of April in Kerikeri. Bryce served in Singapore from 22nd of September 1980 until the 15th of August 1982. 648739, McAvenue, Barry J, NZ Regiment, RNZIR, passed away in Melbourne, 12th of April 24, aged 86. Barry served in Headquarters Company, 1 NZ Regiment and 1 RNZIR, 1961 to 64. Served in Malaysia again during the second tour to Borneo in 66. Posted overseas to Victor 4 to South Vietnam in 69-70 as a corporal. Served with Support Company of 6 RAR NZ Anzac Battalion. 650955, Meads David, known as Lofty, passed away 9th of May in Masterton. Lofty was in Delta Company, 1st Battalion, NZ Regiment, or the Pierce Battalion. Whiskey 41696, Mountain, John H., affectionately known as Doc, RNZ Army Medical Corps, passed away on Friday in Auckland, aged 77. John served in Vietnam as a corporal medical orderly in Victor 5 Company from May 1970 to May 1971. He was a long-serving soldier, being later commissioned and retiring as a captain. So I just reiterate Frank's comments. We pass our condolences to all family and friends of those who've passed. And if you're looking for some support or some way ahead, make contact with us or with your local RSA support person, and they'll help you negotiate the immediate future for you and your family in relation to Veterans Affairs and any support that the RSA can offer. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them, lest we forget.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, folks. Thanks for joining us. As I've said, if you've got any insight and ideas on what we should do for the AGM and where it should be held, Birkenhead RSA is the first starter out of the blocks, so let us know and we'll see what we can do. If you have different ideas, or perhaps we could get a bigger crowd. There will be some online access for the AGM. So yeah, that's about us for today. Thank you for being with us, Frank. Thank you for putting up with the bad weather for us on behalf of those down south who are hanging out for a bit of water.
We just make beautiful butter.
And we'll catch you same time, same place next week. And we may have some other interesting topics of conversation. Have a great day. And don't forget, get on the phone, ring those you know. Just in passing, I ran into a guy yesterday getting some windows sorted up for the veteran accommodation in Christchurch here. Turns out he was ex-army, an engineer, and was an ex-cadet. So it's interesting who you find. He gave himself away. He made a remark which just escapes me at the moment, and I thought, you've actually served because you've used that term. So you're surprising where these people hide.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, folks, take care. Look after yourself, look after your mates, and we'll catch you next week. Cheers.
Yep, farewell.